Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Julius Baer Generations Cup, an awesome tournament that began with 16 players, that whittled down to 8 going into a quarterfinal, and today we play the final day of the final match. It's Arjun Erigaisi, the youngster from India who is rated over 2,700 and is a top 3 player in India right now, versus Magnus Carlsen, the final boss of chess, the man who has captivated the chess world over his entire career, frankly, but especially over the last 2 or 3 weeks, as we have had a developing chess drama, chess scandal, whatever you want to call it, and all eyes on him, and he has been performing thus far in exceptional ways. Friendly reminder about the format. So yesterday, Magnus won the first part of his match versus Arjun. So today, Arjun needs to show up and win 2.5 out of 4, or 2.5 out of 3 to force Blitz, and then an Armageddon. Will he be able to stop the final boss of chess, the gatekeeper of chess, that last kind of step in the quest, or not? Before we jump into the games, today's video is sponsored by water. Stay hydrated. Yeah, I'm serious. There's no sponsor for today. It's time for the grand finale, folks. Here we go. First game, Arjun plays the move d4. Now, Arjun has played e4 against Magnus in this event, and Magnus has actually played the modern, the Pirts, and he actually does the same thing here, which is really fascinating. This is not an opening that Magnus plays a whole lot. Magnus has played this against 2 guys, as far as I can remember, a lot against those guys, against Anish Giri and against Arjun Erigaisi. And it's not like he plays these lines against these 2 because he doesn't respect them. Well, maybe, but he won't say that publicly. He plays it because it's good to get extremely well-prepared players out of sometimes massive amounts of preparation. So for the second time, he's just straight up playing a Pirt's defense. No top-level guys play the Pirt's defense. They just don't. Because there's like 10 other decent openings that don't get such a high evaluation for white. Especially if you're not in a must-win situation. If it's game 1, you're not going to play the Pirts. You're going to play e5, Sicilian. Not Magnus. Bishop e3, c6. I used to play this with black back in like 2014 when nobody knew any theory and nobody could punish the Pirts. I would just play b5 here. And Magnus, in one of his interviews, said he's taking an anti-young player approach. He's trying to get them away from comfort zone, away from prep, into strategically rich positions that have complexities for both sides. Erigaisi plays queen d2. This is known as the 150 attack. I actually learned today why it's called the 150 attack. I never knew this. I thought it was like the 150 attack because it's worth $150 or 100,000, 150,000 or 150 million. It's called the 150 attack because apparently, this might be completely wrong by the way, but it's based on the English rating system, which is in the hundreds. It's by the hundreds, not by the thousands. And they used to say that even a 150 rated player, which is about 1,800, could play this way against people and beat them. What an insulting opening. Like, yo, bro, that's the 400 elo attack, right? That's basically what they're saying. So Erigaisi plays long castles because he's like, well, even an 1,800 could beat the world champ playing like this. Here's b5. The fascinating thing is after knight bd7, look at the engine. It's already saying that apparently long castles is a slightly incorrect approach. Like if black plays b5 here, you know, it's a little bit too committal. And this, Magnus waits for long castles, and now b5 does in fact make sense. Erigaisi plays f3, supporting e4 and g4. Magnus plays knight b6, and I love how Magnus is just moving his knights and his pawns. He's just, like, literally, 9 moves have been made. He's only moved knights and pawns. Arjun got a bishop, a queen, a knight out, long castle. He's already starting some sort of attack with h5. Magnus is like, yeah, do your worst. All right, so Erigaisi plays knight h3. He's either looking to go here, forward, or even drop back, rotate back toward the middle. Magnus once again moves a pawn. So he's still asking questions of the white position. He makes him lock. The knight moves once again. He has made 11 moves with only pawns and knights. Okay? Erigaisi plays queen e1. Why would he play queen e1? He's playing queen e1 because he wants to potentially bring his knight into the game. He also obviously wants this defended. He wants his queen out of the way of the pieces, maybe e6 in the future. All right? And now Magnus moves his bishop for the first time and kills it. Just completely kills it off for the knight. And now moves the knight back to what the? Bro, once again, if any of you played like this, you would be yelled at. You would be chastised, right? But the point is that he's trying to play along the light squares. So for example, look at Erigaisi's big, beautiful structure. H5 would close down G4. If you try to play G4, I'm gonna go E6, and if you do play G4 and get something like this, I still cover all the light squares. So then I'm gonna go Knight C4 and Knight F5, and that's the kind of game that he's going for. He is trying to play, or Knight H5, I might play Knight H5 back, but the point is he's disallowing Erigaisi a snowball type of initiative, like an initiative that rolls downhill and gets bigger and bigger, right? So Bishop H6, and Erigaisi does in fact trade off that piece near Magnus's king. Magnus literally still has knights and pawns out. 15 moves of the game, and yet the position is equal. Here, Erigaisi plays a move that I don't quite understand. Oh, no, I do understand, excuse me. I was thinking he could play H5. I guess he was worried about Knight F4, but I don't actually think that really works. I want, like, what if you just, and then just play G4? I don't know. But anyway, he plays Rook H2 to prevent that, and then he plays H5 later. And Magnus is like, wow, that's, like, adorable that you're attacking me on that side. Here's C5. Yeah. So you can, yeah, go ahead. You can do all this. I don't care. What? There's no king here, right? Like, what are you attacking? It's empty space. So he's like, okay, C5. You can give me this check. I don't care. I might even play King D8. Literally, the best move here might be moving here. You know why that's the best move? Because I'm gonna lock your bishop in jail. All right? I'm gonna play C4. The engine apparently, well, okay. The move C4 would look nice. Knight takes D4 here is obviously a good move. If white plays C3, then yes, C4 would trap the bishop in the future. There's an even better move here than doing this. And if you play DC5, black will take with the queen, attacking the bishop. So the bishop is just stuck. C takes D4 obviously exists, knight takes D4 exists, but the other idea would be just locking the bishop in jail and then trying to win it. Anyway, DC, take. Okay, Erigaisi plays G3, F4. That's not mate, by the way, but there very much is an attack there. And it's just incredible. Magnus just left his king in the middle and moved both rooks. The rooks were like, yo, king, you trying to castle? The king was like, nah, I'm good. Trying to stay right here in the center of the board, nice and comfy. Only move now, queen F2, and there's B3. I mean, his chess is like air. It's like water. It just flows. You know what I mean? It honestly just flows, and it's ripe with excitement, and Erigaisi finally caves. He plays the move A4, which is a mistake, because if black captures that pawn, you take this knight for free. Now, you may be asking yourself, why didn't he just do this, right? Because BA2 is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. The pawn just queens, you can't stop it. Which is just ridiculous, right? So, and if you take it, you get smothered mated. I mean, imagine getting mated like this. This is just beyond disrespectful. So A4, queen A2, queen C2, and he just wins a pawn. And then he does in fact move his king out of the way, and he plays E6. Rock solid, 5 out of 6 pawns on light squares, all counteracting this bishop. The bishop is unable to get into the game. And then Magnus moves his king once again, and here come the rooks. I'm now fighting for the control of the H-file that you so graciously opened for me a long time ago. All right? Rook H8, Rook H8. My knight is gonna hang out right here. It's gonna ask the king for its loan money. All right, and if the king doesn't pay up, it's going to give the king an offer it can't refuse. This pawn will be probably lost in the future. This knight now hits the rook and comes back with threats of knight d2, pressure here, rook h2. Yeah, like you could take this, but here comes rook h2. And you know what's the funniest thing? He doesn't even take, he just gets his king out of the way. And then he takes. And then he takes this too. So he's only a pawn up. Like black is still, you know, only a little bit better if white was stockfish, but white is a human, okay? Rook f3, knight c5, knight e4, attacking a lot of material here. Rook b3, and the rook as knight have come to collect. White can continue to try to defend, but Erigaisi's human, so instead of trying to defend like an engine, he tries to go in and create some counterplay. Magnus very, very much laughs it off, slides out of danger. You can sacrifice your bishop on a6, that's great. Of course, it's never too late to blunder the game away, which Erigaisi absolutely was trying to hoping for here and trying to set up. G4 now holds the game, because if rook takes G4 is played, knight G8, king H5, and rook H7, and the king gets its escape route cut off. So G4 would have cut off the king's escape. Magnus doesn't fall for that, and instead gets into a geometrically unstoppable position. Black can now quickly escape checkmate and perpetual check. And he delivers the final blow, the kiss of death. If this is mate in one, and so is this, of course you got to give a knight mate. And if king b1, then knight c3, and that normally is mate, but this is also mate. And f5, knight d3 check, Arjun Erigaisi resigns. That game wasn't even close. That game was not even close. Eric Geisy defended to the best of his ability. Eric Geisy's playing like a 2700. Magnus Carlsen is playing like Magnus Carlsen. There is no number. There just is no number. Arjun now has to win 2.5 out of 3 against the world champion. All right, and he just lost with white. So what is he going to do with black? Well, he's going to do what you got to do with black when you've got to play for a win. The same exact thing, but this time it's a King's Indian defense, which I'm sure Magnus is very excited for because he's looking to play a strategically rich and complicated position. So he plays f3. Now, this is known as the same-ish setup, bishop e3, f3. As we saw last time, it was like the 150 attack, but this is not quite that. The reason why this setup is considered both good and bad for white, it's good because you have a lot more center space, but just instructive moment here. If we go back to the setup in this position, white doesn't have a pawn on c4, so b5 is possible, and white committed to this position early. Okay, so you did play f3, but you committed this way, so black actually had something to attack a lot faster. Whereas in this opening, your tempo is c4, which is good and bad. It's good because it stops various b5s, but it's not necessarily the best because it's a full tempo. And in that full tempo, black gets to play something different, okay? But he plays bishop g5. This is also a line, and sometimes you look to induce the move h6, and then you come back. And you can argue about the meta of, forcing your opponent to play h6 versus not. Now here's something that's absolutely going to blow your mind is happening. So we have the move e6, right? Trying to break out. Magnus plays queen d2, which attacks the pawn on h6. Arjun takes on d5. Now, of course, taking on h6 is completely insane because d4 would happen, and that's not what you want. And in this position, Arjun Erigaisi forgot that his h6 pawn was hanging. Yeah. But then Magnus forgot he could capture it. And then Erigaisi again forgot that it was hanging. It was a completely insane moment here of mutual blindness. Magnus again. I'm just kidding, okay? There's a tactic here. You can try to find it. The tactic my hint here for you will be maximum danger, right? Always look for checks, captures, and attacks for both yourself and your opponent, but also maximum danger. Knight e4 here is an incredible move, which attacks the queen, and then queen h4 hits this, and this is a really nice way to get a completely lost position with white, strategically speaking. So, no, they did not both miss it, but then Erigaisi played the move h5. I don't really like h5. I mean, I would have much preferred king h7, and I think that the two, like if Magnus was black here, he would have played king h7. Magnus generally avoids pawn pushes that he doesn't necessarily think fully bless the position, okay? Because you can't take pawns back, okay? And then if white wants to start an attack in the future, not right now, but he has g4, so you've just given white a potential hook. I said not right now. I said not right now because hg4, fg4, and knight e5 would just completely win the game for black, but I'm just saying, okay, if you castle and you get h3, g4, like you can actually start an attack like very quickly. So, but okay, h5, a4. a4 prevents the move b5, okay? Rook b8 is looking to play the move b5, okay? Bishop e2, knight e8. Looking for the opening of the bishop, looking for an f-pawn move, and looking for knight c7 and b5, which is very much the idea. There's knight c7. And here Magnus is like, well, Arjun wants to play b5. I need to get to a point in this position where I don't really care that he gets that, and I get enough of what I want too, okay? So he attacks the queen. Arjun moves it out of the way, and this is the first move that has never been played before. I think there was a game here that went bishop f6. And of course you can repeat moves here, right? But no. Queen e8. Now bishop h6, trade, and there is b5. Okay, what is the evaluation? I know it says plus 1.9, but why? Why does it say it's plus 1.9? Well, here's why. When you are evaluating a position, which is completely even in terms of material, because that's the first thing, you need to look at king safety as the second criteria. And obviously, black is very much losing in king safety. Black is just very lucky that white cannot go knight h3, knight g5, checkmate, okay? And then you have to talk about piece activity, and it's maybe a little bit slight edge to white because the pawns are really in the way, but the last one is space and pawn structure, right? So white is definitely winning in terms of space, and white is also winning in, I think, future prospects in terms of activity, as we can see with the move rook a7. Counterplay is being created. We swap off knights, but really, I feel like white benefited because white got the rook in. Erigaisi's like, I like what you did, so I'm going to do it too. And here, a very counterintuitive move by white that's blessed by Stockfish is retreating. Yeah, ain't nobody going to retreat. Now here comes Arjun activating his pieces, and now that Magnus sees that the queen has come out, now he retreats. Why does he retreat now? Because, and just in case you're wondering, this is not a fork, because queen c3 would be a spectacular way to get yourself in a lot of trouble. So the reason why is because he comes back with tempo, so this has to move, but he also has now the idea to bully the queen out of the center. You see, anytime you have a position of more space, you got to look at pawn breaks, right? You got to look at the potential future pawn play. And that is exactly the purpose of queen c1, knight d1, is in the future, white will now start expanding with the pawns. And this rook is great, I mean, honestly, but it's a spectator to what is about to happen in this game. Erigaisi plays h4, the rook gets booted, the queen gets booted, and now the knight comes in, e5 is coming, knight g4 is on the way. The advantage is just simply inflating like a balloon, okay? e5, key pawn break. If de, you have d6, knight e4, and the game is simply over. Knight g4, f5, like this, all right? f5, fe on the way, knight h6, and so on. The black queen goes back to d8. All right, Magnus slides out of the way, attacking d6, and doesn't even take back. His next move looks like a mouse slip here, but it's not. If you want to successfully attack an opponent, you need to make sure the center stays closed. If you play fe5, black plays knight e5, and now the advantage is gone. So rather than taking back the pawn, he plays the move f5. He sacrifices that pawn entirely, okay, to reopen the position of the black king and not allow the black pieces to coordinate like they would be able to do if the center stayed open. The center is close, so the pieces are all on the back rank. Arjun Erigaisi's pieces are sitting and awaiting the Magnus Carlsen army to show up and determine the fate of the black king and the rest of the pieces. Rook f6, d6, here we go. Queen g5 check. King is hunted into the corner, desperately protected. Just in time are the Erigaisi pieces to prevent this. Takes, and Magnus understands an attack in chess doesn't have to end in checkmate. An attack in chess can end with a win. That's it. A win of a pawn or two, a win of dominant positional advantage. So he takes on f5 and he takes on h4. And now, even though he's not up any material, black is unable to stop the incoming final phase of this assault. Simple improving move, making sure that there is nothing here, not rushing, sliding out of danger. We don't want a queen trade, all right? Knight e4, and Erigaisi here can move his rook and keep the game going, but he's a human. So he starts trying a final stand. He's like, Magnus, you don't scare me. Take the rook. And Magnus is like, I don't care if I don't scare you, okay? I don't care. I want to win, and I will win. Fear, no fear, but you will respect me. Rook takes e5, rook e8 check, and the simple conclusion to the game. Very instructive here. Not just rushing in with queen f5, but sometimes when a king is open, you can check the king into advantageous situations. So you can check and win things with tempo. For instance, queen d5. And if the king goes here, you take with check, which is very important. You also have queen a8, which I think wins the game from a geometric standpoint, because the king now has to go here and a fork. So you check the king like that. Erigaisi goes to the corner. You check the king out of the corner. The king goes here. Now knight f5 threatens the queen, and this, and this, and this. Erigaisi sacks the knight. Magnus blocks. Game, set, match. The reason the match is over now is it's 2-0. Even if Erigaisi wins the next two rapid games, he does not win the rapid for day 2, which means he does not level the match. Magnus Carlsen is the champion of the Julius Baer Generations Cup after winning 4.5 to half versus Arjun Erigaisi in the final. Now, credit to Arjun. He's going to go back. He's going to analyze these games. He showed the most emotion I've ever seen from him today on camera. Clearly upset, clearly frustrated, but Arjun showed up and he played at his level. But Magnus played at an astronomical one. Okay, this was not a match that Arjun lost. Magnus won. He won this match. He won this tournament. He was dominant. He didn't give much of a statement after. I know some of you have been following this whole saga. He just kind of said, he will make a statement in the next few days, and he wants cheating to be dealt with in the world of chess. Whatever that means, we're gonna find out exactly what he means in probably some sort of written form. He also commented on a chess boxing event that is upcoming. Ludwig announced it. Ludwig is doing a chess boxing event of a lot of different creators. And the main event is Amon Hamilton from Chessbra versus Lawrence Trent. I am from and commentator from England. So some of you might not know this, and if you had the patience to watch 20 minutes in today's video, friendly reminder, by the way, video sponsored by water. I actually wanted to be the main event of Ludwig's chess boxing thing. Like, I was gonna fight. I was talking about fighting with Eric Rosen. Maybe some of you don't know that, but now you do. And Eric and I talked about it a lot. We were mostly concerned about like head trauma and things of that nature. But we thought, you know, we would go to a boxing training or a few, and then we would see, because we were similar level in chess and in our level of boxing, which was 0. But we decided we wouldn't do it. I think Eric just generally, it's kind of not the Eric Rosen brand to punch other people. He's like, I mean, I would get punched. I probably deserve it. And also, not to mention, he's constantly traveling. Like, he has better things to do. I don't. Okay? I don't. I'm here, right here, the whole time. He's traveling, he's playing in tournaments, he's photographer, you know, he's doing a lot of very, you know, interesting stuff. He wants to live a happy, fulfilling life and doesn't want to risk brain damaging himself or myself. And I respect that. I thought about potential other opponents, but nothing really excited me and nothing really made sense from a chess or boxing standpoint. You have to be really evenly matched up, but maybe in the future I will. You know, I have been training in boxing. I've been going to the gym a couple of times a week, and I really like it. But yeah, getting into a real fight, not just training on a bag or mitts or whatever, scary stuff. You know, sometimes I take a punch to the stomach, and I'm like, oh, that does not feel good. But we'll see. We'll see. Anyway. That's the final sign-off of the Julius Baer Generations Cup. Appreciate you all as always. I hope you have enjoyed the recaps. I've enjoyed making them. There's been a lot of great energy in the comments, and we'll see where the next steps of the chess drama take us. That's all. One massive announcement coming soon, by the way, in the next few days. Some of you already know what it is, who you have tuned into my Twitch streams, or you're in my Discord. Others of you who just watch on YouTube, you will be hearing it on YouTube in a few days. Stay tuned. I'll see you in the next video. Get out of here.